has enabled this transformation. The transformation is basically the way the industry has innovated, kept its pace of innovation from basic cellular voice or landline voice to moving into cellular, GSM, CDMA. There's a lot of milestones which have come in all spectrums. Innovation one, we can see as a consumer, we can see as an outsider, which is typically going into that we have, different applications which are there with the smartphones coming into play, more operators liberalizing and coming into cost, looking at cost-effective way of deploying these solutions. So one is from a consumer perspective. The second is from a, ecosystem perspective, from a service provider perspective, from an infrastructure provider perspective, from hardware vendors to, other support content providers and VAS providers perspective. See, its innovation can't be only from what we see outside. There's a lot of things which have been in the innovation capsule kind of a thing, and it's like being the heart of where we are today. If the operators wouldn't have innovated and looked at new ideas for delivering or rolling out their infrastructure in a cost-effective manner, today we won't have this kind of rates, definitely. The pricing of the spectrum and all those kind of things also play a role. But definitely the operators have innovated. The communication providers and the system hardware providers have innovated and contributed to that. So the whole ecosystem, and today what we would like to focus is where are we heading in terms of innovation. There's a lot which has been done till now. What are we going to see in the next decade or so? And again, across the spectrum, one is from a consumer perspective. What can the consumer expect from new things which can wow him? We heard, typically now it's very difficult to wow a customer. It's very, very, they are demanding. They have seen a lot of things happening. So to create that wow factor. The second is with all the turbulent times, the operators, the whole ecosystem is pressurized in terms of managing their costs, managing their delivery, and in fact, customer complaints from perspective also. So how the infrastructure and the other ecosystems are going to play. So I would like to, open the panel. I would expect everybody to talk about in individual domain areas. A good thing is we have panel on the panel, everybody representing different domains. So I'll open up with Kirit.
Well, information technology industry and communication industry converge in last 2 decades. Both of them together begin to become enable all other industries and started touching day-to-day life of every citizen in every possible role. Maybe you are a student, maybe you are an industrialist, maybe you are a government worker, maybe you are a, entertainment provider. Whatever your role may be as a citizen, but information and communication technology combined, that is the ICT industry, started touching our lives, day-to-day lives. And that made the, role of ICT industry very, very interesting, very crucial, very critical, and very challenging. And these elements or rather pre-operative and post-operative issues are taken care of. Of course, it will have some challenges of policy because we don't have a very clear-cut evolved policy as on yet. But that will definitely, your area will be tele-education. Telepresence, video conferencing, tele-education, location-based services, services based around smart home, where ICT industry will converge with the building construction industry and will make your homes in such a way that before you reach your home, your oven is ready with hot food. Maybe mobile commerce will be one more enabler where everybody will be in a position to pay from their respective mobiles and would not be required to go to their bank branches or even ATMs. See, ATMs just facilitate our day-to-day lives in a great way, but mobile commerce will go one more step ahead, and maybe, will not have any need for ATM.
More impactful, livelihood impacting, and productivity enhancing innovations which are coming about. I've been involved with this Digital Empowerment Foundation recently. And we're seeing, obviously, I think what Kirit had mentioned about healthcare and education. I mean, we're really seeing, we're going much more beyond that ABCD of content as we talk about the astrology, Bollywood, cricket, devotion, to the EFG, the education, much more deeper functional, the government, the healthcare. So I think these are really the next wave of services which will enable that end-to-end functionality and a lot more meaningful services for the end user. I wanted to say that the landscape has really transformed itself, and we are really at a tipping point. We're evolving to a lot more mature services, from voice to video. Video is really the next voice. We're really seeing a huge uptake of data-enabled services. Really looking at multimodal functionality. So I'll talk a little bit more about futuristic innovations in that, which can really leapfrog a little bit later. But I wanted to say that, yeah, the walled gardens have really been torn apart. So we see the operators certainly waking up to what's happening by the OTT players, the over-the-top players. We see the experience, experience is everything. Quality of experience is really all that matters. We've got the freemium model, which is probably one of the most common models. You get an app for free, and you upsell more deeper functionality or better value to the end user. But there's a new model, which I think is very relevant for emerging markets, which is the retailification of apps. And this is one, I think, big innovation in terms of apping the unapped, which we're talking about over 70% of the market in India. People are scared of apps or smartphones. Person who's really first-time user of smartphones, I mean, he's not going to be so literate in terms of getting to that, to the deep and meaningful application of that. So it'll be about how do they get to using it. So it'll be about from the DIY concept as we used to in the West, the do-it-yourself, to a DIFME, the do-it-for-me type service. So hand-holding people, and it's the retailification. So you go to a retail outlet, just like we bought MS-DOS or MS Office in a package, in a retail package, you could buy apps. So there's a company called Onward Mobility who's actually launched as Apps Daily, has kind of revolutionized this new model in the apps world. I wanted to get a feel, actually, how many apps developers do we have here in this room? We have one there, very interesting. So, I mean, that's another big interesting wave. Obviously, we see my colleague from Vodafone, who's, Vodafone has really transformed, I think in India, certainly, we're seeing the 70-30, relationship for, leaning towards the apps developer in terms of revenue share. So I think that's a big change in terms of enabling that environment. And they failed many times. I mean, this is one of the key traits of innovation I'm coming to, that failure is very important. They failed 52 times. 53rd product, which succeeded in the market. We haven't heard of the other 52 because they failed in the market sort of, or they tried certain things, which were great learnings for them. But Angry Birds itself, I mean, it's driving over $1 billion or euros in revenue. A third of the revenue is coming from, obviously downloads. A third is coming from revenue share from advertising, and a third is coming from merchandising. So Rovio is almost at a stage of becoming a theme park, like a mini Disney in a way, and they're kind of the next wave of what Nokia's holding the flag of Finland there.
If we look around ourselves, our generation is pretty much witnessing multiple historical paradigm shifts, and I guess our generation that way is hopefully at a much better place than the earlier generation. So the first from being followers to being leaders in a sense, in a number of things. So that's one of the historical paradigm shift that's been happening. The second historical paradigm shift that we are witnessing is in terms of work culture, from being a workplace-centric culture, where let's say my father would go to an office and everyone will come to an office to make a decision. It's becoming more and more nomadic. So the location, the place no longer matters. But at the same time, data needs to flow in pretty fast for quick decisions, for knowledgeable decisions. So all kind of information points needs to flow back from the field to the head office pretty quickly, unlike the months it used to take earlier. So what we are seeing is these historical paradigm shifts, and the third shift that we possibly will see in coming years is about convergence of industries. And from that perspective, telecom itself will kind of not an end on its own. Rather, it will be a means to an end. And by what I mean by that is convergence of telecom and banking, leading to new products like e-wallets, mobile transfers, and so on. telecom and building technology coming together to create building technology, building automation, the remote elevator management, remote temperature management, and so on. Then medicine and telecom coming together to create telemedicine and to create remote sensors. So what we are seeing in this one, and I think what we'll see more as we go as we go forward is going to be is going to be completely new communication space opening up. So communication used to be human to human, or in some cases human to machine, and that is something that we will see more and more turning towards machine to machine communication, and that's completely new field. We'll see many more new products coming up. I think in just 10 years, if we look at it, 10 years ago it was the Internet of Information, or the Internet that we know of. So it was Internet of Information, and I could go to the net, search for the right information, and so on. About 6 years ago, the paradigm shift that happened was about Internet of People. Now, everything about Facebooks, LinkedIn's, and so on, YouTube. So it was about Internet of People. And these two are now turning into Internet of Things. That's where M2M comes into play. And maybe a few years down the line, it will be interconnected Internet of all these three.
Just,
Yep, Sandeep, thank you. I think Nitin gave a very good idea about the emerging trends that are going to be there in the industry. But all of you would appreciate that in all these, for all these services, for all these, value, I think too much of how this whole seamless technology is coming to us, how connectivity is coming to us. Behind that, there is a huge effort being made by the technology providers, the service providers. For a company like 3M, which stands for innovation, we spend about $2 billion annually only on R&D. R&D in researching what are the mega trends in the world, which way the world is going, which way the industries are growing, what are the needs going to be there for the next generation in the next decade or so. And that helps us to understand the needs of the consumers and then the service providers who are actually going to interface with the consumers to provide them services. For us to be successful, we want the service providers to be successful so that they are able to provide seamless connectivity. But Sandeep, the bigger point here is, as the last decade has seen several challenges being met by the service providers, you have seen a lot of innovations being taking place in the field of telecommunication, enabling banking, enabling healthcare, enabling power sector. But at the same time, next decade is also going to see some exponential growth in India.
there's a lot of rural rollout, and there's a lot of, innovation which is happening from an end-use perspective, whether it's healthcare or reaching out to the masses in the rural. Along with that, there's a lot of complexities which have been built in because innovation has grown in silos to an extent. There's various technologies which have come into play, whether from an application perspective, having RIM to iOS to, others channels. So basically, how do you deal with this as part of, the innovation continuum? Because there's various technologies to take care of. Maybe from a government perspective, from a rural rollout perspective, if you are looking at 3G, Wi-Fi, LTE, what would work typically?
See, our experience, global experience has taught us that what necessarily works in, let's say, the United States of America need not be successful in a country like India. Similarly, what is successful in India need not be necessarily successful in China. 3M has this policy of making a product for the country. So what we do is we understand the geographical challenges that our industry faces in the country. We understand the demographics. We understand the environmental challenges that one faces. Basis that products are developed. In the sense that one must realize that if you look at the subscriber base, today I was reading a report that we're already touching 1 billion subscriber base, I think, in India. Now, can you think of the kind of infrastructure investment that would be required in the next decade or so? would a country like Italy or would a country like Sweden can think of such kind of infrastructure investments? The challenges that Indian industry faces would not be faced by the service providers in some of these other countries for the sheer scale of of affairs.
So, is it fair enough to assume that, in India, there's always a hybrid or that Jugadu, as we have been saying, basically nothing, it works in isolation. You just make a hybrid network environment which is suited to the local requirements. From a rural perspective,
Yeah, I think in one of the other earlier sessions, I think somebody covered it, the Jugaad syndrome of India. You know what? It can help you in the shorter term, but in the longer term, when you have to subscribe or when you have to cater to a large subscriber base, I don't think Jugaad probably is the right answer, and probably you will need to improve upon your systems, improve upon your technology, so that there are fewer breakdowns. Fewer breakdowns means you have less interruptions. Less interruptions means lower maintenance cost. Lower maintenance cost means you have a better return of investment and better operating income. So if you want to really enjoy a better operating income, then you may need to invest in technology that is going to sustain the huge pressure of our population on our networks.
okay. Anurag, from the apps perspective, typically working, as I said, there are different platforms and all those kind of things. So how difficult is it from an entrepreneur point of view or somebody who's innovating and putting a solution? So basically to work for Android, to have, different platforms because you have a various gamut which is evolving. So you have the OSs which are evolving, you have the apps which are evolving, and definitely, as you said, 1 out of 100 may be working, which will drive the revenue in a way. And as a, statistics said, 1% of the app store is making money, or apps on the app store.
Sure. No, I mean, I agree. There is more risk involved on you follow the right trends and you have the right foresight in that space. So I think, yeah, there is fragmentation, but it is reducing. There is consolidation happening in the industry. So we do see some of the winners emerge. I mean, we've seen Android, for example, has captured 75% of the market in the last 6 months. So, there is tremendous growth there. There are a lot of players in that, but there is more fragmentation within that itself. So one has to understand where do you want to play? What are the specific models that you want to adopt? And I think more so it's really about the core of your innovation, your idea. How are you taking it to market? How are you actually enhancing somebody's, productivity or impacting their lives, for example? I mean, I'll give you a couple of examples of apps, for example. Or in fact, this is one company I'm mentoring called Kisan Mobile Mandi, which is a rural app. I mean, we talk about 742 million people living in rural India. And
More and more innovations, especially when it comes to devices and when it comes to applications, has been happening on the consumer side, and then the enterprises were adopting it. So something like, post BlackBerry era, something like a iPhone or a tablet wasn't really created for enterprises. These devices were created for consumers and then were adopted by enterprises. And there are similar examples even in applications. So the complete social networking phenomena was not created for enterprises. Social networking, each and every application there, including Facebook, were all created for consumers. But now you definitely see increased adoption of these devices and applications in the enterprise space. So more and more companies are using Facebook for e-marketing exercises. iPhone is kind of becoming a de facto choice in a number of Western countries for enterprises. And that's where you now see enablers such as BYOD, bring your own device, coming into play. You see mobile device managers coming into play, so that while there are many devices, many OS, but then as an enterprise administrator, enterprises would like to control the data that's going onto those devices, the kind of websites which are being accessed, the kind of data transfer that's happening, and so on. And hence we see a new innovation coming in terms of mobile device managers, which does pretty much similar to what an administrator can do on your laptop. And that's where telcos and IT companies are coming together to create these hosted applications, to create hosted PBXs, virtual IVRs, hosted email systems, so that it can give the same experience to SMEs and to their consumers, and to their consumers and customers as if they were working with a larger company.
That's great insights. Kirti, just since we, there's a lot of things to be done on the rollout in terms of rural, engaging the e-governance side of it from a government perspective, reaching out to, the government programs and PDS and all those kind of things. We are seeing a lot of traction coming, and I think so the ball has started rolling, but there's a lot of things to be done or which are going to come in next phase. So what challenges and what enablers you are seeing in that space?
Level are already in place. Another major initiative which is coming from Government of India is National Knowledge Network, where almost all universities of the countries are being connected onto a single network, and they will be in a position to exchange the content, libraries, the research projects, and students and professors will be in a position to interact. In fact, in the first phase of it, National Mission Mode for Education, NME, we are connecting 280 universities for BSNL. And the second phase, there will be a central network. The first phase is basically connecting universities among themselves, between colleges and the university headquarters. That is another one. Third initiative which is coming from government side is certain mission-made projects and second phase of e-governance initiatives, which definitely encompasses mobile governance. Interconnectivity of the networks within the states, as well as really, flow of the data, because all the state governments have the format of the data into a different form. Forms are not standardized. So whether this kind of initiative, if taken at the state level, which has got implication at central level or as a national level, will really result into something fruitful, remains a big challenge.
Now, since we are looking a little bit in the future, next decade, any path-breaking innovation among the panel you think which will be, setting a context to it, as we had maybe Androids coming into play, open source, then going into RIM and or BlackBerry coming into play?
Well, we'll see a lot of evolutionary stuff happening. I mean, I can talk about, say, in the apps space, there is augmented reality is being dubbed as the eighth mass media. And, that itself is going to enable a lot of new services also. I mean, that's one example about going from voice to video to almost mind-based communication. And there is some path-breaking things happening in that space, a company called Mindplay and NeuroSky, where we're looking at really coming to that state of relaxation, one can say, so that one can innovate and really drive your beta waves of your, from the neuron level. And then that can also create a lot more connections across different ideas that can be sort of triggered to a lot more interesting things. But these other multimodal enablers, going beyond voice and video, of course, has so much, that speaks a million words itself. So I think that all that is leading to some very interesting times ahead.
Just to add, some perspectives, basically, we have seen smartphones, so we have seen, handled iPads and the tablets coming into play. But the other aspects of communication reaching out is even smart TVs, for example. The smart TVs has, where you have, one is having a TV on your mobile. The second is having the whole communication system on your TVs. So basically the spectrum is increasing. It's, where innovation is basically people thinking big. And I would like to, open this forum to the audience also. And basically anyone on the shop, this floor can think of something which will be, path-breaking, or they would like to see something. Because when, I guess in this forum there would be definitely, but if you go to a campus, a college campus, or take a youngsters pool, they would have a lot of ideas around this kind of, what they would like to. So I guess some, questions for the panel around that.
I guess all of us here are youngsters.
Yeah, so.
Person, he told me that I mean, they are making some kind of application where he can make all the payment through digitally. But can we make something which is secure and something like, if I have to make a payment or if I have to vote in the normal voting kind of thing, I mean, we have the camera on the phone. We just, I mean, those in rural areas who are not educated, they just, I mean, show their thumb, and their thumb impression can be, take the impression, and whatever digitally or secure payment or secure gateway or anything that can be done through that. So I have this thing in my mind.
In this area, one of them is obviously linked to UID, and the whole premise of UID is based on a person's identity, be it thumb impression or retina display, being able to identify the person. And once you can identify the person, then you could use the same, you could use this information either for payment processing, for accessing his medical records or social service records, or even even for cash payment. So while this is one of the examples, but one of the other ones which I have kind of witnessed on a pretty large scale, to the scale of being rolled out to thousands of people.
The multimodal biometrics, for example. So I think the possibility is there, and Aadhaar is definitely a clear project which is using it, and you can do a lot more with better analytics as you build up that database and a lot more precision into the environment.
We started, like in Ahmedabad, we have, one initiative by government of Gujarat, that is particularly in two cities, Ahmedabad and Surat, where they are putting up cameras at all the strategic locations. And basic purpose, of course, which has been identified is surveillance. But then in addition to surveillance, this information can definitely be transmitted through a particular app, and it can be subscribed. It's not
I'll just close. But just being, innovation will continue, has been driving this industry, and there's lot more to come. There's lot more there in the pipeline, which will see the day in the next decade. And I think so there's, what we have not thought through, what we have not seen, a lot of these things, milestones would be set in the next decade as we innovate across, from a consumer perspective, from service delivery. It would be across the ecosystem. I would like to close the session now.